Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing Monday with the Watertown Oswego SBDC, where we go live every Monday. And apparently, I have the wrong date on the slide because it's just that kind of day. I'm Nicole, friend of the SBDC, and we're talking about social media analytics today. But before we talk about that, as I regroup my brain, Liz and Erica, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on at the SBDC?
Well, you have pre-summer brain, Nicole. I mean, let's face it. After yesterday and the weather out today, after the winter that we endure up here in the hinterlands, the sun comes out and you're like, wait, I can't think anymore. Certainly
Yeah,
happens. It
so
happens.
fuzzy.
That's right. Your
Yeah.
brain is going, wait, vitamin D? What? Anyway, welcome to Marketing Monday, everybody. Hey, Erica.
Hey.
What's happening this week at the SBDC?
Yeah, we've got some things coming up. Let's see. I know that we had, well, we'll talk about this first. We do have upcoming on May 4th. That's a Wednesday, which it typically is for safety series, but it's the sexual harassment safety presentation. So we've got that going on Wednesday, May 4th. So that's next week already. It's crazy. And then we do have a reschedule. That's actually going to be, well, let's see, Saturday, April 30th. Okay, that's still this week for Serve Safe. So that got rescheduled to this Saturday, April 30th. So if you have questions or you want to sign up for that, you can leave a message at 315-755-0387, and we can get you scheduled for that reschedule.
Right. And here's the thing with Serve Safe. Did I say that right? It's either Safe Serve or Serve Safe, or maybe it's both. Personally, I would have trademarked both. So,
Yeah.
because I could never keep it straight. If
Either.
you are an SBDC client, or if you are willing to become one, and it's free, it's confidential, it's one form. I mean, we're from the government. We have to have a form. This training is free for you or your staff. So anybody who owns a restaurant or runs a restaurant or a snack bar, ice cream, country club deli, food
Catering.
truck, anything.
I had to take it for catering. It's super useful, and normally it's kind of expensive. So the
It's
fact you guys are,
$285. Yeah.
yeah, the fact you're offering it for free is amazing.
Well, it's for our clients, and it's through our funding is through the CARES. We have CARES Act funding, so this is all pandemic recovery. So anybody who has a restaurant, if you're listening to us, give us a call. We'll sign you up as a client. We'll get you into the program, and you get the textbook. It's in person here at Jefferson Community College in our beautiful commercial kitchen, and it's taught by our health and our hospitality and tourism instructor, Shauna. So
Awesome.
join us for that.
All right. Well, you've been
And
on the screen
now,
for a second longer here. So today's topic, we're finishing off the social media ads month that we've been having, and today's topic is all about looking at ad analytics or insights or stats or whatever you want to call it. And so what I did today is I found for my clients who I've run ads for, I have obscured their information, and I'm going to anonymize them a little bit. Anonymous, I don't know. Going to make them anonymous, but I'm going to give us enough context to have the conversation. We're going to look at the stats, and then we're going to have some really kind of good questions at the end. And Liz and Erica just pull me out of my text stupor as needed for
we
these
will.
small bit. Thanks, appreciate it. And yeah, just a quick thing. The SBDC is an amazing resource. You can set up a free consultation with your own SBDC counselor. Whether you've been in business for a while or not, it's super useful. I like to regularly check in with mine quarterly. As the beginning stages, you might need more help or whatever, but this is an amazing resource, and you can email them to set up an appointment. So I just wanted to mention that while it was there. So before we look at these pictures, because there are some words that are going to be on these graphs or these tables of information, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. So a word that we're going to see in these stats is impressions. So this is how many times it was shown. Now, do we know if the person paid attention to it or not? Do we know if they stopped and read it and then kept scrolling? We just know it was put in front of them. Whether they paid attention to it or not is not something we necessarily know. I mean, personally, I'm glad that our computer doesn't know this much about us, but another word that we're going to see is reach. And you might say, well, what's the difference between impressions and reach? So reach is typically a number of people or accounts reached. So usually your impressions are usually bigger than your reach, because sometimes the same person can see an ad more than once. So, each of us, like, Liz has an IP address on the computer she's on. Erica has an IP address on the computer she's on. I have an IP address on the computer that I'm on. If I see the ad twice and Liz and Erica also see the ad, that ad has, wait for it, it has 4 impressions because I saw it twice. They each saw it once, but it's reached 3 people. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, those are the words we're going to see in the graphs. So I thought I would kind of suss out the difference between those things. They are similar, but usually impressions is bigger because some people do see the ad more than once, unless you make it so they don't. And then there's, a cost per conversion. Sometimes it's abbreviated as CPC. So the cost for whatever you want it to happen. So if it was awareness, it's going to be cost for reaching 1,000 people. If you're paying for a click, it's going to be a cost for each person that clicked on it. If it's a cost per lead, it's going to be a cost for every time someone filled out your lead generation form. So whatever the thing is, it's how much it costs to get that with the math, right? So this is one scenario. I'm going to call them an influencer. They have a pretty large social media following. They're about to hit 200,000. They're trying to get to 300,000 because they're writing their book, and the book is coming out in the fall. So they want 300,000 people on the Facebook page. That is the main event, right? And so what they're thinking is that, okay, and I did some math just so that we could, because I'm really bad at simple math, especially on the spot. So if like 1% of, if you got to 500,000 people, right, bought a $20 book, right, that's $100,000. That doesn't count people that are going to buy multiple copies of it. That doesn't count the people who are going to become paid subscribers of your Patreon. So when you're a content creator or similar, you have different sources of revenue. And so having an audience of people who are engaged with you and are buying your stuff is really useful. So
it's not like you're going for volume though, right?
Going for a number. He said, I want 300,000 likes by September. And I said, okay. And we were below, so we've gotten, I forget exactly how many, but at least 30,000 since I've been working for him. But don't be impressed by that, because it's a lot easier to get more people when you have a lot of people. So I know businesses that will work harder to get from 0 to 100 Facebook fans than people that'll work to get from 100,000 to 200,000 fans, honestly. So if you are, what I'm saying is, don't make the scenario make you feel bad. Just know that it's easier once you have some to get more. So let's take a look at this graph here. So what I did here is we were trying to get the lowest cost for the page like that we possibly can. And so he's a fitness influencer. And so in audience interest 1, I picked people who followed like something like Peloton and, like whatever, right? And in audience interest 2, I thought, well, let's try more like the nutrition people. So I picked people who were following sort of like healthy nutrition kind of brands, like protein powder companies and things like that. So I just made a couple of audiences and I thought, okay, let's see who's cheaper, right? So that first set was audience 1 and 2 running at the same time. And as you see, the nutrition people were cheaper to get to, 38 cents per like versus 46 cents per like. And then I thought, okay, each of these audiences is about 500,000 people, which is pretty big, right? What if instead I made a lookalike of people who already like his page? So a lookalike audience is people, remember from our very first broadcast of this series, from like 3 weeks ago, we talked about a lookalike audience being people who behave like the people who already like your page. They could be clicking on the same websites. They could like the same other pages. They could have similar commenting behavior. They could have similar. We don't quite know what goes into the lookalike audience because Facebook's not going to tell us, right? Why would they? So I thought, okay, each lookalike audience has between 1 and 3 million people in it. I think this one has 2 million. So the two, audience 1 and audience 2, just each had 500,000. And I thought, well, what would happen if we did the same ad set, but instead just put it in front of a much bigger audience? Would it be cheaper? And it looks like it's falling kind of somewhere in the middle here. So, we're going to keep trying things, but we've been trying, different creative. We've been trying different audiences. because he is ready. He's like, let's run $5,000 a month in ads. And I said, hold on. I want to make sure that we're getting you the cheapest ad possible, because at the beginning of this, we were starting with 60 cents a like. And so now that we're honing in, we're trying things, we're getting more and more at his target audience. So our amount per like is getting less.
All right, I have questions.
Yeah.
So
Should I put this on here? Is that this would be helpful for the questions?
yeah, up to you. I just,
Okay.
I mean, they're more like clarifying. So you might have to decide after I ask them.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So under audience one, the 773 likes, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see what you're saying. So does it make sense that you would want to continue going after that audience? It seems like it's more targeted for him anyway, as far as fitness is concerned. And in the end, he got 773 likes for it, right?
Yep.
So in my head, I'm thinking, well, it makes more sense to continue to go after that target audience, even though it's a little bit more money,
Right. But
because
it's
you
not
got
that
a
much
better result.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so let's take a look at this. So the second column, so we see reach versus impressions, right? So let's ignore impressions though. Let's say reach. So that if we look at that, by the way, that top one was still running when I took the screenshot, and it's still running now. We have $500 spending to it right now. So that it looks low, and it is holding. I just checked this morning. It is holding at 40 cents per page like right now. And I think
you did it. Yeah, sorry, you did
Yeah.
500,000 for that one too. That's all consistent.
Well, so audience one and audience two each have 500,000. Lookalike has 2 million. I just thought,
Oh,
I wonder
okay.
if, because I didn't want to run them at the same time, but I thought, what if we just put it in front of a bigger audience? Would it still perform as well, kind of thing? With a similar, and we've been using the same. There's like a little fitness joke we have that his audience liked, and so we've been running it to this little fitness meme.
So what might be the difference there is how much time it's had to run as far as the numbers so far. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
that might be part of it. We can really compare the audience one and the audience two ad set are completed.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to kind of simplify the columns so we weren't looking at tiny numbers. I'm sure it's already pretty small. People are watching this on a phone, but I wanted to get rid of some of the. So I didn't show like, oh, this campaign had completed versus this one's in progress. So audience one and two was one campaign, was one thing, and I said, I think we put a couple $100 per or something just to see. So if we let's look at audience one. So it reached 19 out of 19,564 people. 773 of them clicked the like button, and we paid 46 cents per. So, and if we look at audience two, it showed it to 18 out of the 18,000 people who saw it, 498 people clicked like. So Erica, you're right. Like audience one, even though it was more expensive, it seems like more people were interested and clicked that like button, which is what you were saying. So why? Yeah.
So if you're gonna maybe try to, run it again, right?
Yeah.
Then it would be kind of a hard decision, I think, just unless, he's really, really wants you to go with the cheapest, or something.
And the thing is, like, this has all been on one piece of creative. Okay. So we haven't experimented at all with like, oh, what would happen if we did a video? What would happen if we did different creative to the same audience? So before, I've never had a client before, by the way, who wanted me to spend money faster. But I was like, I don't want to waste your money. I want us to make sure we're getting a low cost for you. So, so you're right. Like we want to, like that audience one is pretty interested. Those fitness people are pretty interested, more so than the nutrition people, even though the nutrition people were cheaper to reach. So what we might want to do is run a second piece of creative to audience one and audience two and see how they do and compare that.
And so what do you think, or what do you know? Because you might know this. What made audience two cheaper?
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know. I mean, I know what's made up of it because I'm the one who made the audience, but like, it's like, okay, the dietary people are cheaper. Okay. And part of me might want to subdivide that audience further. Like I said, I did it with a bunch of protein powders and stuff. I might want to be like, okay, what would happen if I did it for this protein powder versus this, like the intuitive eating people versus, I might want to like separate those out and run it again and see if there's one part that is really cheap to get at.
Yeah, well, it might be possible that that audience is online more because they're looking for products versus looking for a trainer or something. I don't know.
Right,
I'm just
yeah.
but it's I think what the answer to my question is that it's hard to know that. Like, it's not something you're going to want to spend a lot of time trying to figure out is why it's cheaper.
Right. And here's the thing, like, it's so funny because people like think I can run one ad set and tell them everything. And it's like, if it was that easy, I would be lying on a beach somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
So we have to like try. Exactly. And that's what we want to see, is that rather than ads being something we do once in a while out of sheer desperation, we want it to be maybe a part of our marketing mix if we're ready for that. And we want to know that we're going to be trying things in an ongoing way. Now, if this client would have just given me and was like, spend $5,000 right now, we would have paid 58 cents per like, which doesn't sound like a lot more than 38 or 40 cents. But when you start getting into that 5,000, yeah, exactly.
12 cents a piece times 5,000. Yeah, that's money.
Yeah. And it's money. Yeah. And it's money over time. So what, I heard some like, I think Seth Godin was saying that Mercedes knows that it spends $1,000 in advertising to sell a car. It doesn't know what part of it works, but so it just keeps doing what it's doing, right? Because it's working.
Because that makes
Mercedes is more than $1,000, right? Rather than saying like, well, can we get it cheaper? They're just saying, you know what? No, we're happy with that acquisition cost. So that's an important thing to know too, is like there's a balance between, we're trying to get to a point, but at a certain point, like Erica says, that asset's doing well. Why not put some more behind it? And that makes complete sense to me as well.
Okay.
So obviously a lot of us small business owners aren't in this camp, but it's nice to kind of open it up with, because it's kind of nice thinking about different problems, right? I like other people's problems. They're so much more interesting than my own. So speaking of my own problems, scenario number 2 is me. And so you'll see I haven't blurred anything because it's me. So leads for a co-working space membership, right? So if we know that the average member stays 6 months, by the way, they typically stay longer, but the main people who stay 1 or 2 months at a time kind of skew this lower. I'm saying that most of them pay the $199 monthly price point. So we say that if I get a member and they stay for 6 months, that makes me $1,194. Okay. And I know that, I know what our forms convert at. I know people who see the form versus fill out, it's about 10%. So knowing that it's 10%, what that means is that I need 10 people to fill out that form before I get one customer, before I make my $1,194. So what does this mean? What does it mean?
We love that you're so transparent too.
Yeah, well, got nothing to lose here. So as you see, I've been trying, by the way, PSA for myself. If you know of a commercial space in Canton, New York, that costs under $2,000 a month and is not sad, please reach out. So was trying to figure out, like, okay, is it worth me spending a lot of energy to try to open a space in Canton? And so I made we're coming to Canton. And then I did an interest form of people who were interested in learning more. Okay. And so in one, I just made an audience of Canton residents, because I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to just target business owners. People might be working remotely, or they might be living here because their partner works at the university or something, and they don't know what they're going to be doing. So I didn't want to just say like people self-proclaimed business owners. I just wanted to say like people in the general area. And I know from my own market research and from what other people, have seen, that most people do not want to commute more than 20 minutes to a co-working space. That's about what they want to commute. They don't want to drive like an hour and a half to get to an office. Like, they want it to be relatively close by. So I did one audience to Canton residents, and I did one to the Canton Potsdam area, people who said they were business owners. So I put $50 per ad. And so as you see, I spent $50 on the Canton residents, and 1,797 people saw it, but they saw it 3,913 times. The audience was small, and Facebook really wanted me to spend my money, so they showed that ad. to that person, each person like 3 times. So maybe after the 3rd time, the unrelenting ads, 5 people filled it out. So I got a name and I got an email address. 5 people. And for the Canton Potsdam business owners, again, a similar sized audience, because I did kind of increase the geographic spread with people. You know, we have a lot of small business owners in our general area, as you know. I spent $50 to get 3 of them to fill out that form. But as you see, reach was 2,312. Impressions were 4,300. So each person saw it twice. And so in the first scenario, the math is easy. I paid $50. I got 5 names. I got $10 per name, right? And in the second scenario, the math is a little weirder. I paid $50. I got 3. So 50 divided by 3 is that $16.67. So averaging the two, I paid $12.50 per lead for 8 leads. So obviously, but I know, right? I'm like, oh, but Nicole, you need 10 leads to get your customer. But if I run this ad set again, maybe I would bully some more people into filling it out. But if I got 2 more people to fill it out and one of them turned into a customer, I theoretically made $1,194. Now they might just stay 2 months or they might whatever, but I have paid $100 to get these 8 names of people who are interested in what I have to sell. And my product value, as you see, is relatively high. Because I know, like I said, we convert at 10%. So I would need 10 leads to really run this experiment and for one of them to actually become a member. So
You're so close.
I know, so close. And if I had a building, I would run that ad set again for sure. And
I was going to ask if you had.
No. It's so
No.
Anyway, so
but that's an important lesson, though, is that if you're thinking about doing social media marketing, you have to be ready for what's going to happen, good or bad. So
Yeah.
if you had converted at 2 or 3 times that rate, say you just hit that sweet spot, then which is good news, but you're not quite ready to open those doors, which is bad news. So this is all part of your marketing strategy. And, don't be sitting there on Saturday night, after you've had a glass of wine and go, yeah, I'll do some ads. Think it through, contact your SBDC advisor or your marketing consultant and really do the cost benefit analysis like Nicole just showed us, because it isn't for everybody all the time.
Right. And, I could have just opened a space, right? I could have just been like, got a building, spent 20 grand on furniture, like whatever, and just opened, but I'm not sure about my market. So I think what a lot of people don't realize is that you can use social media ads to test before you go whole hog on something. If you don't want to run a focus group, you could just run an ad and see if people click on it or don't click on it, or run a couple of sets of ads and see what part of this are people most interested in, Oh, you're thinking of opening a women's only gym. Maybe you run a series of ads of saying like, that there's personal trainers available, that it's, open 24/7, and that it's, I'm trying to think. Okay, just those 2. Let's try that. We run the ad set, and I know it's a women only gym. I run it to women in the area. And then if a bunch of people click on the 24-hour open thing versus the personal trainer available, that tells you, if you're going to run a full page ad in the newspaper or something, what you're going to emphasize or whatever. So you can use this to learn. Yes, you can use it to get customers, but ads will help you learn. And that is, I think, if not as valuable, more valuable than what you actually get from it.
Yeah. I think learning opportunity. And also, you don't know. I mean, there's still 8 leads, and so you don't know. One of those leads could come and lease space from you at some point. Like,
right.
Just because it didn't happen immediately doesn't mean that it didn't help in awareness in the area, for one thing. And it could be that one of those leads or another one,
right,
eventually does something. So
yeah, maybe one of them joins and stays for 3 years. We don't know, right?
And again, it doesn't mean that you should keep running the ad based on those sort of assumptions and that kind of thing. But it can still help you go, okay, there's potential value to this, even though it didn't necessarily seem like it,
Yeah. And it was a worthwhile kind of experiment for me to run. And yeah, I do have those 8 names. And if I wanted to, I could individually email them and say, hey, can we sit down for half an hour? Can we talk about what you need in your
Yeah.
office space? And
Yeah.
I would have a really valuable, and yeah, maybe I give them, hey, thanks for your time. Here's $25 for the local coffee shop
Yeah,
or something.
absolutely.
But yeah, so, it's important. I kind of wanted to so that's what's called a lead generation ad, which we talked about in a previous broadcast. And as you see, it's more expensive to run, right, than for me to get my influencer client a Facebook like for, 40 cents. Because you're getting more information. I have an email address. I can actually reach out to the person. So yeah. And obviously I know my numbers really well compared. Yeah, it's so funny. Most people, it's like they don't want to tell me, and it's like, listen, like my job is to like know your numbers so that I know if I'm doing a good job or not. And speaking of doing a good job, this is a art company. It's a long story, but they do artistic maps. And since so many people do this, and since I named the ads really generic, I didn't blur anything because there are so many companies that do. But they do, so like you can get this cool like wall map of the map of Nashville, of cities all over the country. There's a whole website. You can get it printed in different formats and all of that. So we know that the maps cost $20 with free shipping, right? But the question we have, it's like a relatively low price point. It's for sale online, easy. But like, so my first question with them in the first ad set we ran is, who's interested in these maps? Like, who cares to buy a Nashville map, right? Well,
I like maps.
Right. But so the first thing was like, okay, people living within 25 miles of Nashville. And as you see, that was the winning ad set, but we'll get into that in a second. Okay. So we can target people who live within 25 miles of Nashville. And then I made another audience that was people who were interested in Nashville. Because let's face it, like there's some people, I have a friend who's like obsessed with Las Vegas. She lives around here and she's like, she loves Vegas, but you know what I mean? Like so I just did a interested in Nashville audience. And then I did a lookalike audience for each of those two of the living within 25 miles and the interested in Nashville part. So I sent them directly to where they could buy the map online in several different finishes and sizes. And we know the average map is $20. But they could also like get a really big one that was more expensive or a small one that was less, but like that was about the average price and everything had free shipping. So as we see here, we see, and I'm going to look at the column second from the right, which is the cost per result. So that's people clicking, right? Now we could have run the ad to people who made a purchase, right? But we would pay more. And what we really wanted to do was test how interested, right? Who is interested in the map. So someone who's interested will click. Right? They're like, oh, let me go look at this. Let me zoom in. Let me see what the map looks like on a larger screen or in a larger photo than what's in the Facebook ad. So each of those, 37 people clicked on that, living within 25 miles of Nashville, 37 clicks, and we paid 23 cents per click. So as you see, we spent $100 total, 25, 25, 25, 25 on each ad set to just see which one was the least expensive. And it was funny because what I wanted to do was I wanted to run ads like this to different cities across the country and just see like, okay, is there some rules to people like a Las Vegas or like I'm trying to think of a New York City. Like, are there just a lot of people who are just very interested in some of these places who don't live there who would buy the map? Or are there a bunch of people who live nearby who need cheap art for their Airbnbs or something and they're going to, get a cool looking artistic map? So as you see, we paid between $1.75 per click and 23 cents. Now, if I would have wanted to, I could have set a maximum bid on this, but I didn't because I just wanted to learn. This was for learning. And so if we look at the total results, which is in bold on the bottom, we see that I got 78 total clicks between the 4 ad sets. We spent on average of 44 cents per click. And we spent a total, even though we were willing to spend $25, we only spent $34.46. So even if 2 people bought a map off of that, we would have been ahead because they would have spent $20 on the map. So if I would know, for example, how that was converting on the website, if I would know like what the conversion was for people who clicked through to actually bought, I could also make some better decisions about that. So yeah, you can get a lot of information about not just, not just the cheapest way to get things, but like who seems interested, which Erica, I love that in the first ad set you pointed out, like, hey, like these people aren't cheaper, but they seem more interested, which is, something you want to get at too. Because it would be super easy to just see, okay, who's the cheapest? But, it's part science and part art running the ads. So we want to just, for, this e-commerce client, we want to see like, okay, which people are interested in the products, and hey, if you want to come out with, I don't know, phone cases or t-shirts or something else that is map related, that to put that Nashville map on, like who's the group of people that would be interested in buying it? Maybe the same people who click through on those ad sets. So
seems to me, and you must do this a lot with your clients, just like that brainstorming session, so that
yeah,
because to think about the scenarios, and a lot of it to me seems like if you just sit down and kind of think about it as far as who your audience is and why they're going to be more interested than another, it's kind of common sense, right?
mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's a lot to think about in the details of it, and yeah, you're not always going to get it right. But it seems like those, having a few people, involved in thinking through it and everything would be really helpful in these scenarios.
And what's interesting about it is like, so for example, we can't say, okay, show me all of the people who have rental properties in Nashville. That's not like we came up with these scenarios, right, of people who might be interested, but sometimes we can't directly target the people who are interested. And so what we have to do is
not
think,
an option, right?
Yeah, like we have to think, okay, like, for example, like with my fitness guy, okay, so how can we gauge if people are interested in fitness? Oh, if they are, if they like Peloton, or if they, like I said, get this certain kind of protein powder, or if they follow my MyFitnessPal or something on Facebook. So there sometimes you can't get right at what you want, but you have to kind of like be like, okay, but based on what data I have access to, how can I target this person?
And that's got to be, the situation where the more you do this, the more you kind of start to know what kind of data you're going to have to play with. Yeah.
And Facebook giveth, and Facebook or any social media site taketh away. Sometimes you'll make this beautiful little ad set and it's just running awesome and it's getting your client cheap leads and they think you're a genius. And then one day it just stops working. And so having all this extra information of like, okay, like, who is interested, what is our conversion on the website or whatever, allows me to look at that ad set, say, love and light, that was awesome while it lasted, but now I have another direction to go in. So if your marketing person or your SBDC advisor is asking about numbers, yes, yeah, we're kind of nosy, but mostly it's just so that like, if I am looking at the ads as they're running, I can make judgment calls that are in your financial best interest. And it's kind of funny, like, and that's why it was kind of fun to pull these over the weekend and sort of, blur some names and stuff, as I was like, oh, it's so fun to like look at other people's things, and it makes you kind of think about your stuff differently. And then, this final one is similar in scale to that first one, which is, this is like a national nonprofit. Let me see if I can make it. Okay, let's pretend that it's Greenpeace, but it's not. And you just want to make them aware that Greenpeace has a, local cleanup day every March or every April. Is it 22nd? That's Earth Day, or 20th? I always forget. 22nd, I think.
I think so.
So, okay, let's pretend it's that. But this was a national nonprofit, and they just wanted awareness that this was going on. So there was no like, okay, this person, we don't care about donations. We don't care about, we don't care about anything, clicks to the website. We just want more people to see this, right? And so, if they were paying like pennies per view, even though to someone like me, I like kind of bristle at like, ooh, I kind of want to give you something. They're like, nope, we just want more people to see it.
Yeah, no call to action always makes the marketing person cringe.
Right? Yeah. And so what we ended up doing was running some YouTube ads. We did a YouTube. This is a YouTube ad, and it's, as you see, it's a skip. I kept the thing so you could see part of it. It was a skippable in-stream ad, which are, if you've experienced them, it plays for 8 seconds and then the little skip button shows up and you can skip it, right? And as the advertiser, you don't pay unless someone watches a certain portion of it. They don't have to watch the whole thing, but they have to watch. If they hit the skip button, I don't think you pay anything. So we got 6,657 impressions and 2,879 views. So people saw it, and then some people viewed a portion of it, right? So the view rate, as you see, if you divide, 2,879 into the 6,657, you get a view rate of 43%, right? So half.
That's probably pretty good, huh?
Right. And then,
Yeah.
I don't run it. I mostly work with small businesses, and they don't usually want to run YouTube ads, but, and so we paid a penny per view. And we ended up, just so that you have like a little bit more context. Basically they had never run ads before. So I had to so what we ended up doing was we spent a certain amount of money on on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter ads, just to show them like, these are the kinds of things that are possible with ads. And we had a cumulative reach of 92,449, whatever people we could call, reach, right? And 333 people did click over to the website there, because there's always a website as part of certain kinds of ads, like right you're on Twitter, like, and you see it and then you click on it, it brings you to the website, right? So that's what they got out of it. They were not nearly as excited about it, by the way, as I was. I thought this was great, like a penny per view. And it's so funny because I have so many like local clients, and they're like, oh, I have to do video ads. I'm like, nobody's doing them. The only people that are doing them are banks and insurance companies. And so if you wanted a hyper local ad, if I'm watching you on YouTube and I'm sitting in Potsdam, New York, and you have a Potsdam business, and the only other people bidding on me are the local banks, could be a cheap way to get in front of some people. So sometimes, like, just like I said, that was more of I just wanted to show a different format. They ended up they didn't have a lot of YouTube content, so they didn't want to keep doing ads. They're like, we only had, like, we have 8 YouTube videos. We want to keep doing it. And I'm like, that's fine. I just wanted to show like how a diversified campaign of awareness could work.
Mm-hmm.
I would, I would love to, like, and we ended up, we worked a bit together, but not as together as but I was just trying to show them that, like, hey, we spent $717 and we reached 92,000 people.
And over 300 people clicked to the site. And then my question is, what was there when they got there? And was that helpful or not helpful as far as awareness, or actually trying to find out if people are going to show up to the event, or, that kind of thing. So,
right. So the question becomes like, okay, so do we want people to be able to sign up for a local cleanup event? Do we want to like make a landing page that's specific to but I just like it was funny because they were like, well, nobody's going to click over. And I was like, okay. I think they will, but let's run it. But it was just kind of an experiment to sort of show what was possible. And, the good news is a lot of things are possible. So, especially if you go in knowing either what you want to learn or what you eventually want as an outcome, right? And so, as you see, some of it is like, what was the cheapest thing? But some of it is also, well, there's some qualitative questions as well too, right? And so I have a series of like 6 questions here that if you're looking at your ads results, you can just kind of ask yourself, and maybe you just want to write this down. So, write down the answers somewhere, so that when that little ad set that could just stops being able to, you've got some places to go. But asking yourself, if one of these people turns into their customer, was it worth it? And if that feels simplistic, you can say, well, it would be worth it if 5 people did. Well, that gives you an answer too, right? But if one of these people turns into a customer, the average order value, the average, if you have repeat customers, how much they buy or whatever. But like, is it worth it? Is spending, I'm just trying to remember what some of the spends were. Hold on. Was spending $34.46 worth it? If one of these people turns into a customer? Well, hopefully they order more than just the map. Maybe they order other maps, or maybe they order a couple of maps, So to me, that's like a good sort of fundamental question because it sort of forces you to
Do a little bit
answer.
of return
Yeah,
on
yeah,
investment. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And another question you can ask yourself is, if I reached a lot of people, how much money or effort would it be for me to reach that same group of people with a different method? So maybe like if I wanted, so if in Canton, for example, I'm sorry, I'm like clicking back and forth between my things. Okay, so in Canton, I reached a collective 3,000, and I'm looking at the bottom of the reach. I reached 3,827 people. So to reach 3,827 people in Canton, New York, what would I have to do, right? Would I have to throw an event at my business and have people come over? You know, would I get some coffee urns and some pastry? Would I take out some advertisement? Would I get some staff to help me run the event? You know, and would it have cost me more than $100 to get that reach? Probably.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the reach might be a little bit different than digital
Right.
reach, right?
Right. Yeah.
But still, it's
well, like
definitely good
but
to
there's-
think about these things. Yeah.
Right, and there's people coming to the event, and then there's people who would see the event announcement on Facebook, and maybe they wouldn't come, but they'd see the event announcement, or they'd see it
Yeah.
mentioned. To me, like that would count as like a. I'm not saying even people who would show up. I'm saying like me, like a potential 3,827 people in my town talking about it. You know, so
Yeah.
and it's funny because most people, they're like, well, you know, yeah, I get that social media. If it's free, right, you're the customer or you're the product. So like we're all the products, right? And at first it was free to get us all to join. And it's annoying now that we have to pay to get in front of people. I get it. I'm following you. I feel the same way. At the same time, I'm also like, well, if you reframe it and think about like what you get out of other things that you spend money on, you know, it's I think it's a little bit more of a productive conversation. You
Sure.
know, what have I learned about my audience running these ads? You know,
Liz, I think you're on mute.
I am.
yeah,
That's when my heavy breathing doesn't disrupt anybody. But it's the value versus cost. It's
Mhm.
you know, you have to really think about what you would do with these impressions, and what are you going to do with these people, and do you have the capacity? Or so there's a lot of questions, and they're very interesting, and I really appreciate you looking at three very different scenarios for this. It
Mhm.
really helps to drive it home.
Right. And, you know, like all these people have slightly different business models and customer values and are operating in different markets, but it kind of shows how, you know, yeah, it's different, but it's all things we can learn from. Like, you know, with our influencer guy, okay, the nutrition people were less expensive, but the fitness people seemed more interested. Let's dig into that a bit, you know. Let's post a nutrition based ad and run it to both groups and see if maybe the nutrition people suddenly seem more interested. Like, I don't know, but yeah, so it's always this constant experiment. And at a certain point, after you probably do this, you know, an ad a week for a month or so, you start really having a pretty good understanding of, are your customers on this platform, and if they are, like, how do you target them, and how do you target them less and less expensively over time.
And you can learn a lot about your customers. So in that example of the fitness, either I have to sell you an expensive fitness bike, or as what I once heard it referred to, the world's most expensive clothes hanger, right? Because that's what it does. It sits in your bedroom and you throw your dirty clothes or your clean clothes on it, or buy fitness products. So the overhead of my gym is very different than when I'm buying fitness juice through a multi-level marketing scheme. So, you know, you have to really think about all those things, not just your business, but what are your competitors are doing, what those like-minded people are doing. And Nicole, I have a question. So
Yeah.
if I'm in a private closed Facebook group, for example, can you find me, or how, you know, can you find those people too? Or is it just, you know,
I think I can target people based on group membership.
because that's a really interesting.
I'm not sure about the closed versus open versus searchable, because I know there's like different kind of levels of permissions with groups. I'd have to double check that, but yeah, I mean, you can But if I wanted to sort of tangentially target you, there would be ways for me to maybe figure out how to do that.
And I thought it was interesting about the Nashville, like, so people who live there, but also what about, people who visited? So when
Yeah.
when you're thinking about all these things, because not everybody's going to stop at a tourist trap and buy tchotchkes, you may be able to get them to, oh, remember when we went to Nashville last year? Oh my God, that
Mhm.
was so awesome. And so really think broadly about who you're targeting and when you're targeting them and how you're targeting them is I think is the lesson from this whole month is
Mhm.
put some thought into it. Don't just say, yeah, okay, fine, it's only $50. Well, it is only $50, but it might be $50 that you could really see a return on versus $50 that you went, I don't understand this information. So
Yeah, and it's funny because people will be like, "Well, can't I just click boost post?" And I'm like, "You can, but like we're not going to learn the things you want to learn, and you're still going to probably spend a similar amount of money anyway. So we might as well. It's a little bit more of a pain to set up, but once it's set up, then you're getting data. It's all in one spot. You can run reports. You can, it's to me, it's just yeah, it's a little more work, but you get much more data, and I think it's easier to make decisions when you have more data.
and it's data you can slice and dice. You can say, what did I do in November versus what I did in May, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. And, kind of adding on to this, what have I learned, not just about my audience, what have I learned about my messaging? Like, what do people care about? What do people, because if you run like a video ad, for example, you can see what percentage of the video people watch, like we did in the YouTube ad. So, like, okay, this many people watch this portion of it. I should have pulled that as part of it, but I forgot. I just remembered that now. But I could actually see, like, okay, if I ran 2 video ads and this one got watched, almost all the way through, and this one only got watched the first couple of seconds. Okay, what was it in that first couple of seconds that made people click that skip button? Was there something about it, content wise, that just wasn't working for people? Because the messaging improvement not only improves the ads, but it improves how you just talk to your customers in general.
And even with a video, couldn't it still just be the title of it, the name of it, versus the actual content and the video itself?
Yeah.
That attracts people to it or not? Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
No.
I mean, that's why people are obsessed with like YouTube making the perfect YouTube thumbnail is like a whole
Yeah.
thing. People take classes on it, like because like seeing that thumbnail or titling the video makes it come up in search or makes it like look like you want to click on it and see, ooh, what's that video about?
Right.
And then you can ask yourself, have I gotten any residual benefits, right, that I can attribute to these ads? And obviously it's hard if you're doing a bunch of different marketing things, at the same time to say, oh, this benefit came from this particular action and not these other 3 I was doing at the same time. But like, if you start running ads and then you see that like, oh, like in the average day, I have like, 20 purchases in my store and now there's like 30 and ads is the only thing you've changed. Well, even if the ads are, ho hum, not doing, if it's creating something else, especially something offline that you can't necessarily measure, which is why I'm always asking my clients, I'm like, tell me about like what's going on at your place of business. Cause like, I'm not there. I don't know, they'll just be like, yeah, keep doing it. It's working. And I'm like, okay, when you say it's working, can you tell me about that? Can you tell me like, are people coming in? Are people, sharing your, are you seeing people like kind of more interactive on your Facebook page, which I don't manage, are the, what's going on? Like, and some of these are intangible and some of them are, in real life versus the internet. So are you getting more phone calls? I don't know, but it's something it's something to attribute to that. So like the beginning of this broadcast, when we said, hey, safe serve, free class, normally $300, call here to register. The SBDC, if you're a client, is going to pay for it because they're super nice. If you guys get a bunch of calls after this, we know that it was probably from this broadcast, unless you guys are doing other ads, right? So,
Yeah.
And then the final question is, have I learned anything running these ads that I can apply to other parts of my business? Like, are people super interested in, these new, this new pencil, pouch? Are they really interested in this pencil pouch versus these other things, on my site? And should I make it a featured product so it shows up on my homepage? Like, should I rewrite the copy of my fitness influencer page where I'm pre-selling my book to include, some very fitness related or, content that, kind of nods to the messaging that I used in the ads? Like, should I rewrite the welcome stuff of my onboarding emails for my new customers based on some feedback I've gotten, and by
And
feedback, clicking or not clicking, right?
Yeah. I would say that if something really, really went well, right?
Yeah.
Then that's an absolute yes that you should be incorporating that somewhere else or doing something with it, right?
Yeah.
Not just should, but hey, why wouldn't you, maybe make that change or enhance something on your website or on social media
or do a line extension. Right. If that poster of Nashville sold, maybe a pillow would, maybe a postcard would, maybe a t-shirt would. So think about brand extensions and line extensions and, how you can take the information that you've gleaned and grow your whole business or grow whatever piece of it you want. Maybe you don't want to sell any more t-shirts because, you don't make any money, but maybe you really make money on those trivets or those mugs or whatever it is. So, learning about your business and learning about marketing, if you ask the right questions of yourself and if you apply the right questions to your business, will really inform what your customers like and don't like. And that's what it's all about. And one of the things we tell business people all the time is, you have to, just because you like this or you think this is good or you would buy this, you're public. You aren't everybody. And so you really have to be objective. And, one time years ago, we went to Key West to the Keys on vacation, and my daughter was about 10 at the time. And she wanted, I don't know if you guys remember the t-shirts with the splattered paint, right? So she was like, oh my God. So we went to this place and she was like rigid with anticipation. Can I have? I said, yes. And the guy he goes, which one do you want? That one? And of course, she's a little nerd from Sandy Creek, New York. She's like, yes. And he goes, pulls the t-shirt down and like begrudgingly puts it on it looks like a big waffle iron. They sear the thing because it's not an artist print screening stuff. It's just El Cheapo vinyl. And she didn't notice, but I'll tell you who noticed. That was me. We bought that t-shirt. We got out of that store and,
as fast as you could.
Yeah. So obviously I get it. And the guy was the owner because I chatted him up or I did chat him up. Then I stopped. But, you have to take yourself out of it and look at what other people want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much, but remember, don't get intimidated by ads.
Right.
I think about that guy in high school who could drive stick shift. And I remember thinking, well, if he can, I can.
That's right.
And think about these people running Facebook ads. If they can, you can. So or it doesn't have to be Facebook. It could be YouTube. It could be LinkedIn. There's so many ad platforms. I'm just saying Facebook and Instagram because that seems to be the ones I get the most questions about. But once you get used to one interface, you can take what you learn and apply it to all of them. So
yeah, I think especially in this case, we've been doing our little monthly themes and everything, but I would imagine it would be really helpful to go back to the first one with all of this because there's so much detailed information and to try to kind of get it to all come around a little bit. Like, okay, now here's my first step, my second step, my third. This is what I need to think about first. I'm thinking that would probably be helpful for the people who tried to catch these or obviously if you missed one,
Right.
But go back to the beginning once more and kind of watch everything and decide. Yeah.
That first month is great. And like I said, if you already have a Facebook page, start with that. If you, have a LinkedIn company page, you can start with that. Whichever place you already have a presence, just start there rather than you feeling like you have to set up a whole new, like a whole new account on Pinterest or something like that. Start with where you're at and set up an ad account. And trust me, they will give you a dedicated ad person. They will walk you through it. They will make it as easy as possible for you to spend money. And then like once you make your account, think about what is the first thing I want to learn? Do I want to learn who cares about Nashville maps? Do I want to get a couple of leads of potential customers that will rent co-working space? what is one thing I would like to learn right now? And then think about how that ad set would be set up and watch that first broadcast, which is wherever you're watching this now. Just scroll back in time and you'll see it.
And I think it's also
Social Media Ads 101 is what it's called. Social Media Ads 101. So just search for that. It'll pull up wherever, whether you're searching on Facebook or YouTube, it'll pop up, and just watch that one. And it'll give you the vocabulary and sort of how to look around. And
you did some budget talk there too, right? And again, I think I almost think this is like, could be, slot machine scenario where you get enticed and you're like, oh, it's not that much money, I'm going to try it again, I'm going to do this. But I think it's so important, just like any marketing budget, that you're deciding on, is that you decide and you stick with it. Now there might be some flexibility there, and Nicole, tell me if I'm, but that you really need to be disciplined with this, just like any marketing strategy and any budget, and go, okay, this is what we decided to spend on this, no more, no less, kind of thing. And obviously you learn, like we've been talking about, and you decide, okay, in our next quarterly budget or, next year's budget, we're going to try to do this differently because this and this and this. But I think it's also, I guess what I'm trying to get at is just the discipline in doing this the smart way, right?
Yep. And you can set a cap on a per action. So you say, like, I don't want to pay more than 30 cents per click. You can set that. You can set a total campaign budget. So like you don't need to overspend. And the absolute worst case scenario is that if you bid too low, your ad just won't show up. That is the worst case scenario. And it's basically, you'll be in the exact same place that you are when you start the ad, which is that it just won't run. And so you'll just not be running ads. So, so just, be patient with yourself. You're going to learn, and like I said, it's part art, part science, but go back and watch the series, and just don't be intimidated by the interface. Like, you can do it. It is a tool in your tool belt. It will not make you a millionaire. It will not tank your entire business. Like, it is one tool in a variety of tools that you have. So if you're not ready to spend on ads now, that's totally okay. You can just keep this knowledge in the back of your head. And when you do have a scenario where, like, oh, I'd like to kind of get some feedback from my audience, or, oh, I have a question, or, oh, I'm ready to get some customers into this website. Now you've got a vehicle to do it with. Right. So.
And if you have a social media presence and you post, try some of your ad ideas on your posts. See if they get any traction. I wouldn't replicate them entirely, but you can, use the free aspect to hone in a little better on what you're going to end up paying for.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Anything else, ladies, about social media ads before we close out the broadcast? Well, and just as a little next month. See, look, I'm organized now. See, next month we're doing audio marketing, because video. I mean, I know we show up and we do it every week, and everyone's like, oh, you guys just make it look easy. But the thing is, like, and I think a lot of us are maybe getting a little video fatigue. And if you are the kind of person who enjoys talking about your business, but maybe not to a camera, there are audio formats that you can use to market your business. So we'll be exploring some of those, so stay tuned for that.
Audio is not dead.
No, it's not. It's alive and well.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Streaming did not kill the podcasting star.
No, that was a good one, Nicole.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm making up for it here. Coffee's kicking in. Well, have a great week, everyone. Nice talking to you guys. Liz,
all right.
Erica. All right, take care.
See you next month.
Have a good week.